Okay, here's a thing called civilization, and then its members are not altogether satisfied. In many cases, we can be discontented. So then the question arose, how do you ameliorate, that discontent? And of course, the great thinkers, we should know by now, said we have to just, it's Pavlovian, right? Just give them the switch to keep pulling, and you get some bread and circuses and some titillation and some entertainment. And probably, we'll be able to satisfy them, satiate this bestial part of man that doesn't really like rules. But then there is the reality principle, right? So the child doesn't like the imposition of any rules, right? The innocent, the discontent. But at the same time, there's something within us that ends up having to abide by the rules, right? So what Marcuse thought, being a modernist, is that, hey, in the past, in the Victorian age, the discontented that Freud talks about was more because the rules were stronger and stricter. So the modern age must loosen up a bit on those restrictions and have the rules by all means, but make them sort of flexible and make it so that society can easily transgress them now and again, like on the weekend, right? That's why this whole thing's called the Dionysian age. How do we keep society going, right? Government going, the state going, with all of these discontents running around? And so it's been a long study, right? It's not that they've installed one system. Many systems are being tried right now. In fact, there's actually rehearsals going on behind the scenes. A lot of what you see in government today, even with these liberals and all of the histrionics, is because in government right now is a kind of a jostling for position to see who's going to rule the coming age, right? And those people are aware that we're in a kind of an, just again to use the metaphor of the age of Dionysus, and that is going to pass away into this draconian state where there's absolute authority, which is unquestioned. So we're being tenderized for that. And the leaders right now are all jostling to see who's going to come out as being the new priesthood. Look at the world today. The average Joe, no matter how dumbass and thick and hedonistic he is, actually presumes that he is incapable of seeing that it hasn't got the slightest effect on anything, and that the vote and all these other systems are just nonsense.
I remember the shining sanguine sun, the frozen forests and fallen leaves, and the hollow hill under the sky.
And then out of that mayhem comes a very strong call for this death of individuality. The way I break it down, and this is very much drawing on Freud and also on Ayn Rand, is that what hedonism really is, because that's what we're looking at, is lack of self-love. The drunkard, the party animal, the one who has to be high on the night, is this lack of self-love. There's the negation of reason in the way that Ayn Rand would have defined reason. And just because you've been trained in school and educated doesn't mean that you're really a disciple of reason. It's negation of will, because will is work, will is effort, will is intentionality, and will is direction. And in fact, will has to be behind a reason, actually. It's more primordial than reason, as we'll see in a minute. Negation of reality, a big one for Rand. Because is reality something that is quite obvious to us, or is it something malleable? Does it even exist at all? Or can, as we've seen in other programs, can there be reality distortion, leading to complete dissociation? Some people are saying we're teetering on it, right? Regression is the classic psychological term, meaning what? Regression to what? Well, regression to autism. Regression to an automaton level, in which you imagine yourself as human, you imagine yourself as being, humanistic, altruistic, whatever, but you're not. You actually have regressed back to the pleasure principle. So the hedonist can be described as somebody who prefers the pleasure principle, right? You experienced it as a child, everyone does. Then you experience the intrusion of reality, and you don't like it. And if a society can turn into a nanny state which allows you to regress from this reality principle, you'll be into it. So we're dealing with regressives.
I remember the red runes on the rock, the spell of theme being sung, and the bone opening up of the beautiful burrow.
Then, authoritarian state. I factor this in because all of this Dionysian, right, play is actually going to bring back a kind of draconian authoritarian control. The Dionysian is the ecstasy in the destruction, like kids smashing their toys, right? He hears the Marcuse herd people scream out, "Satiate me and I'll do your bidding." Now, people like Ayn Rand saw this coming, right? She was a great prophetess. And she objected to the spirit of altruism, not for the stupid reasons that people give on these comments and, any works on her, because they're only looking at some very narrow aspects of what she said. Her work is hugely encompassing, and she saw that the spirit of altruism is one of these methods of escapism from individual discernment. But the main thing that Rand saw was that in obedience to these overlords, one is negating selfhood. And without selfhood, there can be no culture. The crowd is not a phenomena as much as it is in your head. So it is a phenomena, it's a physical entity, but the crowd is also a mentality. The crowd is also an attitude. So is Dionysus. The intoxication is the word I'm looking for. A divine madness. And the word ecstasy, the very etymology of the word means to stand outside myself. Ecstasy means standing beyond or standing outside. So there's the Apollonian version of that, in which you have to stand outside yourself and imagine yourself in a future bright world of order, right, and certainty and truth. And then there's the standing outside of yourself in the need to evade yourself. And the crowd provides the platform. You got to stand outside myself. I need somewhere to stand. So the crowd then becomes the bacchanalia. And after this incredible Dionysian explosion of sensual satisfaction, titillation, and intoxication, there's a need for repose, right? There's a need they're exhausted. And so then there comes the Euroboric sleep, where everybody just lies around exhausted. The slaughter, killing the bulls and slaughtering the children or whatever it might be. Something in her, something of her self-esteem, right? That's why I put self-love at the top there. Self-love, self-esteem got crushed. By what? Well, it's called adultism, a word most people haven't encountered. Well, they fucking better start.
I remember the protected password, the secret soothing symbol, and the O thou object.
And that is a huge study. Adultism crushes the child's ego. The superego then tries to stabilize what's left of this, consciousness. And we become victim of the superego. But the superego is the tyrant in the head. Right? And we have a love-hatred relationship with this tyrant.